Hello, hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to Not Just Nintendo, a video game podcast that is about Nintendo. But it's not just Nintendo here at Not Just Nintendo, as we talk about other video games as well. And by we, I mean just me, because I am solo in this endeavor. This week, of course, is episode 12, and important detail about this week is that there are now, as of today, as of when you're seeing this, not as of when I'm recording this, but as of when you're seeing this, there are 29 days until the Switch 2 launches. In 29 days, that's less than a month. So I think that's a pretty big milestone. I've been talking about it for a while, but 29 days, that's a big milestone as far as I'm concerned. Less than a month until the Switch 2 is out. I don't know that I'm going to get it on launch, but I'm assuming I'll get it fairly early, and I'll be talking about it, and it'll be very exciting, I'm sure. Even just hearing about it, even if I don't have it right away, hearing about it will be quite amazing, I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be big news. So, for the last few weeks, I've mentioned my video game collection and how I was filing it on a Google spreadsheet, and how I had to finish the Xbox games still and all this stuff. And I keep bringing it up every week, and every week I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna finish the Xbox games up for next episode. And then I say it again, I'm like, I'm gonna finish the Xbox games for next episode, and then I don't. And then the next week, I'm like, all right, I didn't finish those Xbox games, but I'm gonna do it this next week. And then I don't do it. And then the next week, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it again, and then I don't do it. And here we are once again. I have not filed the Xbox games. This time, I'm actually gonna say I'm just gonna say that I won't do it, because then if I do file the Xbox games in the next week, then it'll be a big surprise to everybody. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna just say that I'm not gonna do it, and then when I do it, it'll be a surprise. So that's the plan. We'll see if I go through with actually doing it or not. I'm not gonna weigh in on it at this point because who knows? I may end up doing it. I may not end up doing it. Same business with me, like making videos and stuff. I'm like, I may make videos, I may not make videos. I can't have much of a say on that. I will say with the videos, these last couple weeks and the next couple weeks are very busy. I don't. It's been a bit of a mess. For anybody that doesn't know, at school I'm in band and orchestra. I play violin and I play clarinet, and so I have concerts and I have. Well, recently it's concert time of the year, right? We're about at the end of the school year. School properly ends in a little over a month, but then we have final exams and stuff after classes end. So things are winding down, but they're only ramping up for music stuff. There's all sorts of concerts and there's all sorts of stuff. There's also a there's this solo festival they call it, and basically you go and you play for judges. You get a score. You play a song, and if you have multiple instruments, you play a song on multiple different instruments. And so I'm playing high level solos this year, and so I've been busy practicing on that stuff. And I've been a busy guy, I've been a busy guy, and I haven't had a ton of time. And the little bit of time that I have had, besides practicing stuff, I've been mostly trying to play some video games, beat some video games to talk about on the podcast, or I've been working on the podcast because it takes quite a bit of time. It takes a little bit of time over multiple days, or a ton of time on one day. It's whichever. So lately, I've been trying to do it all on one day, and it's not always working out too perfectly well. So I've been very busy, but I'm hoping that I don't know, towards the end of this month, maybe it'll start to calm down a little bit. Also, marching band, we have the Memorial Day parade, and so we're gonna have all sorts of rehearsals for that leading up to the parade. We have a Memorial Day parade. Um, and that's right at the end of May. So after the parade, I'm thinking probably things will be a little bit quieter, but then there are a couple marching band rehearsals in June. There's only a couple though; it's nothing too bad. And there's going to be all sorts of final tests in June, and so I don't know. I mean, who knows? And Switch 2 is coming out in June. So as far as video making, it might be a bit chaotic until really sometime in June, maybe towards the end of June, maybe even July. I'm still planning to make July a big month for videos. I know you don't believe me because it's quite unprecedented, considering how I've been not making videos for a while. I mean, depending on what you count as a proper video, I either made a proper video for the last time in December, or in March. So either way you slice it, it's been quite a while, and I haven't live streamed in quite a while. I did so yesterday. Well, actually, I'm recording this on Monday, so for me it's yesterday. For you guys, it's a few days ago. It was May the 4th, so that's Star Wars Day. I've talked about it before. I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't like to talk about Star Wars too much on the podcast. It seems unrelated. But every now and then I bring it up. And so it was Star Wars Day, and of course there had been rumor. Well, I guess I should start with this. For those who don't know, the Epic Game Store on PC, they give out a free game, sometimes two free games, although it's been usually one the last few weeks. They give out a free game every Thursday. It drops at like 11 a.m. Eastern time, I think, something like that. But you can claim it throughout the week. You can claim a free game, and most weeks it's actually fairly interesting. Some weeks it's been really good. There have been things in the past that I've played and really liked. Behind the Frame, Last Scenery was one that came out, or that was free in like January, I want to say. I played that in February or March, and I liked that. February, I think. I liked that game. It was pretty short, a little narrative thing. There's been a number of things. Bear and Breakfast is one that I've claimed on there. I haven't played that. Beyond Blue was like a month ago. I want to get to that. Botanicula was just like 2 weeks ago. I'm just looking through my Epic Games library here. Cat Quest is an RPG. That was one of them at one point. Churchill, I don't even know what that is, to be honest, but I claimed it because it was free. Uh, the Fallout collection, so that's Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics. That was one at one point. Toem, I played Toem back in October. I very much enjoyed Toem. It was a great game. That was another one that I played. Garden Store, so there's been quite a few games. Some of them have been better than others. Some of them are full on like pretty big games. Like there was Humankind, which is a lot like Civilization. It's a Sega published game. Jurassic World Evolution. There's another one. So, there's been quite a few big things. A lot of them I'm probably going to play at some point. Others of them I may not. But the point is, it's a free game every week, basically, on Epic. There's no subscription or anything. If you just have Epic, you get the free game. Uh, Look at me. I'm like a little salesperson, right? But for Star Wars Day, they were putting out another free game, which was not on Thursday. It was on Sunday, Yeah, Sunday. So they were putting out another free game, and they had announced it prior, and they had showed, like, a Star Wars font with, teasing a free game. And so there was all sorts of speculation online as to what game it was going to be. And of course, a lot of people were putting out Star Wars Outlaws, because it's kind of it's a big Star Wars game that came out recently, but it also didn't perform super well. It's partially because the game came out in a pretty broken state. There were a lot of things online about, a lot of discourse. I saw one clip a few different times. Actually, my dad showed me this originally, and then I went and found it myself. Basically, there's this guy, and he's like in a circular room in a hangar, and there's a stormtrooper, and he runs around the stormtrooper, and the stormtrooper's shooting in a line, like as he runs around, but his aim is like right behind where the guy ran, and so he'll be running, and the stormtrooper will be shooting right behind him as he's running, and it's missing every single time. Which, if you're a Star Wars fan, I guess, stormtroopers with their bad aim, right? I mean, anyways, I don't know. But anyways, the point is there were a lot of problems with the game. And it was also expensive for all the, like, the Galactic Edition and all this stuff. They were putting out, like, $120. I don't think it was actually $120, but it was like a $100 edition, one of them was. Some of these editions of these third-party games are getting to be kind of absurd. I know we just talked about a few weeks ago about GTA 6, the rumors with that going to be $100 and all this stuff. So there was a lot of stuff. That was actually even before we found out about Switch 2 games, and everybody started complaining about those instead. So there's a lot of pricing stuff right now. We'll definitely touch on that a little bit later as well in this show. But the point is Star Wars Outlaws. A lot of people were saying that was going to be the free game on Epic, even though it was so new. It was, it was a big thing. It was going to bring a lot of people to go claim it because, it's Star Wars Day. It's a one-time-a-year thing. They can give out a big game one time a year. and not many people had played it anyway, so they thought maybe it could help, boost sales and stuff. But that was not the game that they gave out. Instead, it was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which I'm not saying that's a bad game or anything, but honestly, Star Wars Outlaws, like, that would have been kind of neat to play if it was going to be free. Like, I'm not looking to go buy it, but if it's free, for sure I'll play it, right? So I was a little excited about something big like that, or even some old thing like The Force Unleashed, or even if they wanted to give out a more recent one like Jedi Survivor, or something like that. I would have been happy with any of those. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, it's I don't know if it's quite the best choice. I do actually have the game already on Switch, but I still claimed it on PC because I might as well, right? It doesn't harm me. It's totally free. But Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, that game came out in 2022, and I actually want to find the exact date that it came out. I think it might have been in like May or something. April. Okay, it came out in April of 2022. So that game, I think it was announced in 2019, and I pre-ordered it in late 2019. Maybe it was 2020 actually. I don't know. It was I no, I want to say it was 2019. I pre-ordered it, and I'm pretty sure 2019. And then the game was supposed to come out in 2020, but then it got delayed, and then it got delayed, and then it got delayed, and it kept getting delayed, and eventually it got pushed all the way back to 2022. So I remember that game specifically because I pre-ordered it in 2019 and I got the game in 2022, and it had been, like 3 years, and I really did not care to play it very much at that point. Like, I was quite disinterested. I played it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. I mean, it just wasn't quite doing it for me. And Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga has been one that I've kind of thought about going back to at some point, but I've just got, I've got other stuff that I can play, and it's not like a high priority for me. And this game, it must not have sold all that well because I've seen it all over the place. You go to like a game store and you see it for like $20, right? And now digitally, the thing's like $10. I saw on Epic Games, because I was looking through the Star Wars Day sales. There were sales as well. This was the morning of May the 4th, but it was before the free game drop. So I was looking at this is probably about 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I was looking on the Epic Game Store, and they had all these sales for Star Wars Day, Star Wars games for the Star Wars Day sales, and one of them was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which is normally like $10 or $20 on Epic. It was discounted down to $7.50, and I was like, wow, like that is cheap considering that game is. I mean, it's like a few years old. It's not like it's like super duper old, and that thing like went down in value like real fast. But I mean, I guess, when you've got a game like Persona 3 Reload being just over a year old and being $25 for physical copies, I mean, you expect a lot of that stuff. But, I just found it quite interesting. I was like, man, what is this, a Ubisoft game? No. Anyways. But yeah, it was very surprising. And then, of course, it ended up being the free game as well. So it's funny that on May 4th, they decided to discount it from $9.99 down to $7.50. But then they also made the game free just a few hours later. I don't know if they didn't want to give it away or what exactly happened there. But for whatever reason, they did not. They discounted it just to then make it free a few hours later. I mean, I don't know. Actually, maybe those sales dropped late in the night or something. Maybe it was up for a little while. But either way, I just found that a little bit funny. Because, I mean, it is a little bit funny, right? So I went and I claimed Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I'm probably not going to play it anytime soon. If I do play it again, then I don't know if I'll play it on Switch or on PC, or, considering it's like $5 for physical copies, depending on where you go, maybe one of these days, if I find it on PS5 for like $3, maybe I'll buy it there. And then who knows what I'll play, right? I'll have all the options in the world. I could even buy it on Xbox if I wanted to, if it's cheap enough. I mean, if I find a game for $1 or $2, even if I already have it, if I feel like it's a good deal, I might just buy it, if it's a pretty big game. So, I don't know. That's that was something interesting. And then I was actually kind of thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder if Skywalker Saga is free elsewhere as well. So I went and I looked on the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store, and it was not free. It was just on Epic, which tends to be the case. I mean, most of these Epic games are free only on Epic Games. I guess that's the entire point. Like, they're trying to get people specifically to go to their online store because they know that they're trying to compete with Steam, and they just can't compete with Steam because so many people are so interconnected, I guess, they're so integrated, I suppose, into the Steam library and stuff. So getting people on Epic Games is pretty tough. That's why they gave out these free games in the first place. And so Star Wars Day, they just gave out an extra one. I'm sure just to, I don't know, just cause, like, why not, right? Especially when the game's already 750, might as well just give it out for free for a day, right? Anyways, so I claimed that, and I claimed the last Epic game for free as well. I can't even remember exactly. I'm just gonna go double check right now. It was like some shooter. Oh, actually, it looks like the Star Wars Day sales are still up on Epic. That's crazy. Some of these things are way off. Wow. Because Outlaws is half off. It's 35 bucks. Jedi Survivor is 70% off, so it's 27. Fallen Order is 85% off. You can get that for $6. Um, Star Wars Squadrons all the way down to $6. Yeah, a lot of these things are pretty cheap. Yeah, that's actually nuts. Star Wars Pinball Thrill of the Hunt for only $3.50. Oh my gosh, I gotta jump on that fast, right before the deal goes away. No, I'm kidding. Oh yeah, that was the other game that I claimed last week was Super Space Club on Epic Games. I'm probably never gonna play that, but who knows? In the instance that I do, then well, it was free when it's normally 15 bucks. So might as well claim it, right? It doesn't hurt me to claim it. So, anyways, so that was enough of that little little side. Oh, actually, it's not quite enough. The Star Wars sales though. So I was looking for Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga on the other platforms because I figured if it was free, I would probably claim it on PS5 and Xbox as well, just because why not, right? Um, and when I was looking at sales, I got a notification. While I was looking at sales on Xbox and PlayStation, a notification popped up on my phone from the Meta Horizon app. Now, the Meta Horizon app, of course, that's for the Meta Quest 2, Oculus Quest 2, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's also for the Quest 3. I know the Quest 3s came out last year? I want to say they came out last year, and I only have a Quest 2. I know, I'm really struggling over here now. I mean, there's not a whole lot of games that come out on VR headsets because the development is so expensive and so few people have them, and you have to. They're so hard to make, and they're so short, and they don't look very good. And I mean, there's a lot of problems with them, right? Mostly they're so expensive. But anyways, I have a Quest 2, and I like hardly ever use it. Really, the only time that I've used it like significantly was when I got it, which I want to say was in 2022 at Christmas time. Is that right? No, 2023 actually, I want to say. No, not 2023. 2022 at Christmas time. Yeah, 2022. I got it then, and I used it quite a bit then. And then every now and then, like every few months, I'd pull it out for a day, play it for a couple hours, call it good. I pulled it out again last year in October, or maybe it was November, and I did a couple live streams of Vader Immortal. I played the full 3 games of Vader Immortal, which, by the way, Vader Immortal, really solid games. It's a really interesting experience, playing stuff in VR like that. But anyways, the Vader Immortal games have been out for a little while, but I played those just last year and they were great. But besides that, the Oculus does not get much use. Actually, after I played Vader Immortal, I put it right back up on the shelf. Really, part of the reason I wanted to play Vader Immortal last year was for live stream, because I think VR is just a fun thing to do on live stream. It's really entertaining, especially when you have a webcam showing you in real life, and so on the live stream you can see the gameplay, but then you can see me in the corner on the webcam, and I just think it's always a fun little thing. I look so stupid when I'm like pointing. I mean, I look stupid anyways, but I'm like pointing around and trying to swing my lightsaber and stuff, and it's just funny looking. So I got a notification on the MetaQuest app, Meta Horizon app, and I haven't used my MetaQuest since like December or something. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And so there's a notification about the Star Wars Day sales. This was on Sunday again, on May the 4th, when all the sales were happening. And I got a notification that Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge was like 80% off. It was like quite a significant discount. And so I clicked on the notification and it brought me to the store, right? And it says, we recommended this game, and it was like Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge or whatever. And it says, we recommended because you played. Oh, wait, no. I'm getting this wrong. Hold on, I got this whole story wrong. No, they recommended me Vader Immortal. That's right. They recommended me Vader Immortal because it was on sale. It was like 80% off. And I clicked on it. I don't even know exactly why I clicked on it. I they recommended me Vader Immortal. I clicked on the notification, and it was like, we recommend Vader Immortal because you played Vader Immortal. And that was what was funny to me, because it was it was like, you played this game, so we're going to recommend it to you. Anyway, I totally messed up my story because I told the wrong part of the story. But the point is, while I was on the Meta Horizon app, I looked at some of the other Star Wars Day sales, and I saw the sale for Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge. It was like $10, and so I just grabbed it. I bought that on the Meta Quest, and it was funny. I tried to buy it, and it was like, your headset is out of date. Update your headset before you buy this. I was like, why would I need to like update my headset to buy this game? So I had to go plug that in and charge it up and stuff because it had been 6 months. And so I ended up buying that. So I bought the Tales from Galaxy's Edge, and I'm pretty sure that is basically, or it's the same team as far as I know, as the Vader Immortal people, which is, I'm looking at it now, ILM Lab. ILM Lab. So those are the guys that made Vader Immortal. I'm pretty sure they're also the people that made the Tales from Galaxy's Edge, unless I'm totally getting that wrong. Yes, actually, I just checked. I am in fact getting that right. So, um, good to know, I suppose. But anyways, so I bought that, and I'm probably gonna end up live streaming that at some point, probably over the summer, to be honest. I'll be probably live streaming that Tales from Galaxy's Edge because that sounds like fun. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe that'll be a fun thing in July, since it's going to be the 5-year channel anniversary. But we'll just have to see what happens. I guess we could talk stock. Oh my god, we can stop talking about Star Wars Day sales and about my video game collection because we have some other news that happened in the last week. So I think this actually happened before. Yeah, I think it was the day before the last episode came out. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion remastered showcase, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, happened on the Bethesda YouTube channel. And they shadow dropped the game, which was very strange. A lot of people were very surprised about the. Well, actually, I don't think they were very surprised. This had been leaked before, but they were very surprised when it started being leaked. I think what was more surprising about this announcement was that it was coming out like right then, like it was being shadow dropped. I don't think everybody expected that. And that it was only like $50 as well. The game's only $50 and it's on Game Pass. I mean, everything's on Game Pass day one. It doesn't even matter. But Elder Scrolls Oblivion is $50 for a remaster, which is definitely good, right? I think it's a good thing for the industry to have those things be a little cheaper. To be honest, I don't think anybody would have complained if Oblivion remastered was 60. Honestly, even if it was 70, I don't think it'd be that big a deal, But I think even if it came out at 60, I think people would have been totally fine with it. But I think putting it at 50 definitely says a lot. Like it sends a big message, like, hey, look, this is maybe the direction we should move, right? With the remasters and stuff. I mean, it could also just be that Xbox Game Studios, they're on falling on hard times. They can't get any games out, and so they haven't been making any money. So they have to put, prices down to get people to buy them and stuff. I don't know. I mean, we could sit here and speculate all day, but it was overall just a thing that a lot of people were very happy about with Elder Scrolls 4, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, being $50. Skype also shut down. I know this isn't really necessarily gaming news, but it's sort of related, right? I mean, Microsoft, tech, all that stuff. Skype shut down. Personally, I don't use Skype. I know there's a gaming podcast I listen to. It's my favorite. You can listen to them. They're This Nintendo Life. They're these guys from the UK. They're very fun. But anyways, they recorded their podcast on Skype, and they're like, they've been doing this for like 11 years or something, and Skype now got shut down, and so they were having to jump ship. And I don't know if there are a ton of people in that situation. I know Skype, a lot of people don't use Skype anymore. It's a little out of date in some ways. But I mean, I'm sure there are still people, so that affects a lot of people. And I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think this is anything too crazy, too shocking. This has been around. I mean, I guess Skype is a little surprising, right? Because it's been around for so long. But I think it was always going to shut down at some point. This isn't anything too crazy. There's a new StarCraft game, I guess. I don't really know or care much about StarCraft. Um, and I heard something. I didn't even read the article. I saw a headline that people were rumoring another Genshin Impact game, which, to be honest, I didn't even realize that was something that was like possibly gonna get a new game. Like I don't even know how that works. I've never played that game. All I know is it's like pay money to pull characters, and it's anime-y looking, and it's open world. That's about all I know. So I mean, I don't think I'm the best authority here to be talking about this, but yeah, I mean, whatever. It's just news from this week. And then also big news from this week. I think yeah, this week, GTA 6 has been delayed to May. I think most people have probably heard about this. May 2026, I should say, because it's May right now. That's crazy, right? It's May. It's May. Like that's nuts. But anyways, GTA 6 got delayed. I don't think that's shocking. I mean, that's it's really nothing too crazy. I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I had been seeing discourse for a long time now. People have been talking about how, oh my gosh, it's so crazy that GTA 6 is actually coming out this year and it's not getting delayed. And I'm like, yeah, just you wait. And here it is. Who would have thought, right? GTA 6 got delayed. It's not. It's really again. It's really not too shocking. I mean, I'm not. I'm not too surprised. I'm sure this world is probably very big. There's probably a lot going on. I'm probably not going to care in the slightest. I'm probably not going to buy that game at all, especially not if it's $100. But even if it was, I mean, even if it was $20, I'd probably want to buy it. Because I just really just do not care about GTA. I do have GTA 5. I finally bought it like last year. I know I was a little late to the party. I bought the 360 version as well. Really, the only reason I bought it is because I found it for $2, and it was like literally one of the most pristine copies of a 360 game, really of any video game I've ever seen. I was like, oh my god, it was clean. The disc was totally crisp. I mean, there was no damage on that. I was like, the box was all there. The manual wasn't creased or anything. I was like, this is a clean copy. And I mean, GTA 5, even the 360 version is almost like $20 to find complete these days. So I found a very nice copy of it for $2 or $2. Yep. And I was like, all right, well, $2 might as well, right? So I figured at that price, might as well put it in the collection, even though I'm probably never gonna play it. I did load it up to see if it worked. I wanted to test things out, and so I loaded it up, and I didn't even let it. Sorry, I did let it finish downloading. I went into the tutorial. This was months ago. I did this, and there's like the tutorial where you're like robbing a bank or something, and I don't know, shot some guys, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Like that's all I needed. Shot a couple guys, and I was like, all right, well, there we go. I'm done with this game. I just really was not interested. But anyways, there's enough about me and GTA. I'm not gonna play GTA 6, and I just don't care. Like I really just don't care. But it is definitely still big news, regardless of how you feel about GTA. It's big news that it's getting delayed. And yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll come out on the PS9 and it'll cost $260. Speaking of price points of consoles, we definitely have to touch on that here in a minute. And that minute is now. See, I stopped recording last night. I'm here. Here I am on Tuesday morning. But basically, what I wanted to talk about on the front of the game consoles was that Xbox, they made a little minor adjustment. Just a minor adjustment. I think this came out on April 30th, maybe, and then they were MSRP adjustments for May 1st. So they went into effect already. They hopped right into it. They didn't want to give anybody time to go buy Xboxes while they weren't quite as expensive. So I'll read through the list here. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the same information, but I'm gonna regurgitate it. So the Xbox wireless headset was $110, now $120. All right, not too ridiculous. The Xbox Elite wireless controller with it's the full pack. It's got the extra joysticks and stuff. That one was 180 and now it's 200. The Elite controller without all the extra stuff was 140, now 150. The Xbox wireless controller, the limited edition one, I think this is in reference to the Doom controller, which by the way, if you guys haven't seen the Xbox controller coming out for Doom the Dark Ages, look it up because that thing looks amazing. That Doom the Dark Ages controller looks fantastic. I love that thing. But anyway, it was $80, now 90. And then we get to the actual consoles. So the Xbox Series S with the 512 gigabytes was 300. It's now 380. The Xbox Series S with the terabyte was 350. Now 430. The Xbox Series X digital version was 450. Now 550. And then the Xbox Series X, the regular one. I think this is the one. that has the disk drive. I'm not sure if this is the cylinder one that we're talking about or if it's the rectangular one, but either way, 500 now is 600. So Xboxes are now up $100 basically. Both of the regular ones, or $80 for the Series X, $100 for the Series X. So it is funny though. Oh, and also I heard that games are 80 or some games are going to be 80. I don't know if that's entirely, maybe that's a rumor. I don't know. I'm assuming it's probably true, even if it's a rumor, because that would make sense. But anyways, so basically, you know, I guess what I wanted to touch on here is that the MSRP for all these Xbox things is going up, Of course, Nintendo, their prices are going up here with the Switch 2. And this was always going to happen. Okay, I mean, a lot of people are freaking out about the price increases for Switch 2 and I mean, you don't hear nearly as much for Xbox. Xbox does all these price increases, and you don't hear nearly as much as you do when Nintendo does it, which is pretty crazy. Um, and at the end of the day, I mean, the Switch 2, if we're going to talk about the Switch 2 again, I think the Switch 2, for what it is very well priced. I mean, it seems competitive, power wise, even, with some of these other consoles like the PS5 and the Series X and the Steam Deck. I mean, it's very competitive, and yet it's still cheaper than all those other things, other than, I guess, the Xbox Series S. Although now it's going to be about the same price as the Xbox Series S. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from here. The Switch 2 is actually a very good deal for 450. That thing is like dirt cheap for what you're actually getting there. When you consider all the power, the new features, the games presumably that are going to come out on it. I think it's a steal. I mean, that doesn't make it not expensive, but for what it is, it's definitely a good price, right? Um, and of course, like I said, Xbox, they're putting up all these prices and they're not getting nearly the pushback that Nintendo was getting, because there's always a double standard against Nintendo. And also, there's been rumors that came out. I think there was just yesterday when I'm saying this, so a couple days ago for you guys, that the PS5 is going to go up to 700, and the PS5 Pro is going to go up to 900. So I don't know. That's not confirmed or anything. That's speculation, but it does seem like that could feasibly happen. I don't know. I'm skeptical that they would want to go above Xbox on that, and I would say they'd probably want to match the 600 for the PS5, and then make like 800 maybe for the PS5 Pro. But I don't know. I mean, the speculation was 700 and 900, so maybe they're feeling it more than Xbox is, and they have to increase more. I don't know. Or maybe they think, they can just get away with putting it even higher than Xbox because they sell better. The PlayStation sells better than the Xbox. Obviously, that's no secret. The Xbox is, not selling very well. But if we talk about the game prices, right? So, because it does look like, based on speculation, it does look like the Xbox and the PlayStation games are going to be $80. Of course, when the Switch 2 presentation happened, IGN spread a bunch of misinformation that Switch 2 games were going to be $90 physically. That was never anything that was actually said. IGN just made that up. Like, they were just like, oh, yeah, this is what we think is going to happen. But they said it like it was fact, and so everybody picked up on it. And so essentially, they spread this misinformation around, and they were like, Switch 2 games are gonna be $90. And the thing is then finally we found out that wasn't true, and yet they're still saying Switch 2 games are gonna be $80, and that's probably not true. Now we don't know for sure, but we know of two Switch 2 games. We know the prices for like two Switch 2 games, I think, as far as I know. That's Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, two first-party games, I should say. And Mario Kart World is 80, Donkey Kong Bonanza is 70. So what this means is not that Switch 2 games are $80, it's that Switch 2 games have variable pricing, which is exactly what I've been calling for, and I think it's what a lot of people have been calling for a long time. And yet now that we're getting it, people are all upset about it. It's crazy. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, that is logical that they would do that. If anything, that's way better than what they were doing before. I mean, people complained, like, up the wazoo last year, or actually, that was even this year, beginning of the year, when we got Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D HD, who cares, whatever, 4K, who knows, right? I mean, it's not 4K, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they just add another thing on the end of that game every time they remaster it. So, we got that game back in January. It was $60. Everybody was complaining, oh my gosh, how can they charge the same price for, a brand new game that they do for a game that's already been remastered once and is getting remastered again, and it's not all that amazing of a remaster. It was done in Unity and there were some problems and stuff, so people were complaining that, like, hey, look, how can you put this out for 60, right? Well, now, here we are, and games are having variable prices. So maybe when Donkey Kong Country Returns HD 3D 4K Plus subscription service, I don't care, whatever it is, I mean, who knows? When that game comes out on Switch 2, like it inevitably will, honestly, it probably won't, but we'll see. Maybe now the game is still 60, but all the other Switch 2 games are like 80 or 70, or, so maybe there's some variability here, and I think that's really what we should be wanting, and I think that's honestly what a lot of people have been wanting. It just so happens that now that it's happening, everybody's complaining about it, which is, honestly pretty ridiculous. But here we are out here, right? I mean, I saw just the other day, I saw a post, and it was talking about Elder Scrolls Oblivion, right? And they're like, look at this, you got Nintendo out here with their $80 games. I'm like, oh my god. But then you've got Xbox, and they're throwing us a bone here with Oblivion on, well, it's on Game Pass, but with Oblivion being $50. And that, I wasn't too terribly happy about that, because at the end of the day, Nintendo is in a very good position. I mean, of the three companies in the game space, Nintendo is easily in the best position of the three. I mean, because of, their sales. I mean, their sales on their games, the sales on their consoles. I mean, it's no secret that they're obviously on top right now. And Xbox is very much on the bottom right now. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, the Switch 2 sold over 150 million, where the Xbox, I think it's not quite broke 30, or maybe it just finally broke 30. But basically, the Xbox has sold a fifth of the Switch this generation, which is absurd, honestly. And the PS5 has sold a little over half of the Switch, which is also still almost 3 times that of the Xbox, but, I mean, I give them 2.5 times maybe, but still, it's still way behind the Switch. So, I mean, Xbox, they just can't afford to be putting these things out for $70. I mean, obviously, Microsoft literally does have money, right? But they still don't want to be losing money. And they know they're losing money in the game space right now. They're having a lot of problems. And so they have to do stuff like this and put out Oblivion for $50 or, stuff like that. That doesn't mean that all Xbox games are really $50. Obviously, they're going to go up to 80 next time around. That's just common sense. And really, I don't think it should be any sort of surprise, and it does seem to be a surprise for some people out there, but I don't think it should be any surprise whatsoever that this generation, the 10th generation that we're coming up on, or even we're actually starting it a little bit early with some of the companies, that the games will be $80. I don't think that should be a surprise whatsoever. With the PS4, Xbox One, those games were 60. I think Wii U games at that point were only 50, so Nintendo was a little bit behind. And then when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X games came out, they moved up to 70. So they were $10 at the $10 increase at the start of a generation, right? And that was because games had been standard 60 for a very long time, for like decades. And, $60 had gotten to be less and less money over time. So they had to make up for the difference, because games only continue to get more ambitious, and they only continue to get longer to make. They require more people to make. Those people make more money, generally speaking. So, over time, the cost greatly increases, and yet the amount that they were actually selling it for, value-wise, was far less. So it makes a lot of sense that they had to make that $10 increase. In fact, even now at $70, even if we go up to 80, even if we go up to $100, we're still spending less money in the vast majority of cases as we were, years ago, as anybody was years ago. I mean, I wasn't around for the Atari 2600, but, back then, games were well over $100 in today's money. So, obviously that's, an argument you can bring up, but that's not even the point here. I guess really the point is last generation, we went from $60 to $70 as the standard price for games. That was the expected price, the MSRPs, if you will. But then, for people not to assume that we would then again go up $10 in the next generation is kind of insane. I mean, obviously, the PS6 and the Xbox, whatever it is, Prime, we'll call it, obviously they were going to come out with $80 games. Now, maybe it can be a little bit surprising to people that Nintendo didn't just get set at 70, and that Mario Kart World was 80, because honestly, I was even a little surprised. In fact, when IGN spread the misinformation and they said that the physical versions were going to be 90, I actually almost fell into that trap for a minute there. I was like, oh my god, $90 for physical games? that's a pretty big increase. And it wasn't necessarily that I think $90 is too much for a video game, because video games have been that historically. It was more that I was like, that's a crazy increase for them to be throwing on us all at once, a $30 increase. Turns out that was completely made up, and it wasn't a $30 increase. It's a $20 increase, and it seems like for most games, it's going to be only a $10 increase, which is far more reasonable. Now, is it like welcomed? No, well, of course not. You know, it'd be great. I mean, if they would give them to me for $5, I'd take them, right? I mean, obviously. But I totally understand from their perspective why this has to happen, and I'm not gonna like freak out about it that it is. You know, at the end of the day, if there's a game that comes out, if Donkey Kong Country Returns HD 4K 2.0 whatever, if that game comes out and it costs $700, I'm just not gonna buy it. Now, honestly, I probably will complain about it. You know, knowing me, I was like, you shouldn't complain about it. Well, you can complain about it all you want. At the end of the day, though, just don't buy it, and then you're good. I mean, if you don't want Mario Kart World for $80, don't buy Mario Kart World for $80. It's pretty simple. You know, like I mean, at the end of the day, I know everybody complains about Nintendo not doing sales. I'm actually hopeful that there will be sales this generation. But even still, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has gone down to like 40. So it doesn't seem completely unreasonable that they could put Mario Kart World down to 50 or 60 at some point. And you know what the worst part is? All these people complaining about Mario Kart World being $80, almost all of them, even if they do buy Mario Kart World, will not pay the $80 for it. They'll just buy the bundle with Switch 2 and they'll get it for 50. So it's a moot point. Why are we even complaining about it? So, yes, I'm pretty upset with the whole idea here. First of all, the double standard that we could have all these Xbox MSRP increases and, you know, barely anybody says a word. I mean, you hear some people out there like, oh, that's not great. But, you know, Nintendo has MSRP increases and, oh boy, wow, look, they're so evil. They're money hungry. I mean, like, they're a company. Like, no way, really? Oh, wow, they want to make money. Who would have thought, right? Wow, look at Nintendo. They're so sneaky about the fact they want to make money. How unbelievable. Despicable. You know, like, I mean, come on. Like, people are ridiculous. And then, of course, you got PlayStation out here. I don't think I've touched on this yet. This isn't confirmed or anything yet. Obviously, the expectation is that if Xbox games go to $80, the PlayStation games will probably follow suit. Now, it may not be right away. You know, maybe they'll wait. Maybe they'll wait until the PS6 comes out. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just go up to $80 this year. Maybe everybody goes up to $80 this year. Although, I do think Nintendo's going to have some stuff at 70 still. We'll see. I don't know. It's definitely going to depend on the state of the world. We'll have to see what happens on that front. But the rumors are right now, and I think these are pretty well founded, and they seem quite believable, at least from my perspective, as somebody who hasn't personally heard any information, that the PS5 prices that are currently like $500 or maybe $450, I'm not entirely up to date on that. Those are going up to $700. That's the rumor. And the PS5 Pro, which is $700 if you live in the U.S. and you're not buying the special edition with the anniversary version, is $700, and it's going up to $900. Is the rumor. Now, of course, it isn't confirmed or anything, but I would say it seems highly believable. I mean, you know, considering, you know, with the Xbox prices increasing and with the Switch 2 going to be 500, 450 or 500 with the Mario Kart, I think it makes a lot of sense that they would go up to these prices. Does that mean I'm happy about it? No, not really. But it does make a lot of sense, if we're being honest. So, I don't know. It seems reasonable, but I think that's kind of all we have to say about news. I'll probably touch more on this issue next week, especially if we do get confirmation that the Switch or that the PS5 is increasing. I know the Xbox has already been increased, the MSRP, so that was official, and then it actually happened. So if we get more confirmation on any of that stuff, then I will probably discuss that again at some point. Or I might just discuss it again, just, you know, if I feel like it. I don't know. Next episode's like May 14th, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we're gonna take a music break, and I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna talk about a game that I beat in the last week, which will be very fun. So, a few days ago now, this is May 4th, we're talking, I beat Infamous. So I've been talking about Infamous for a little while here, and I finally beat it. I say finally. I mean, it's not like I was working on it for that long. It wasn't like too insanely long that I was working on this game. It was pretty reasonable amount of time. But anyways, yes, I beat Infamous on the PS3, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So Infamous, for those who don't know, Infamous is by Sucker Punch Studios. So Sucker Punch, they made, was it called Rocket something? They made some 3D platformer on 64 that wasn't terribly popular, and then they went and they made the Sly Cooper games on like PS2 and stuff. So in Sly Cooper's where they got more popular, because that Rocket game on N64 was not very popular. Um, but they made the Sly Cooper games. Those were pretty popular. They were one of those studios. There were a few of them back then on PS2 because they had Jack and Daxter from Naughty Dog, um, and they had Ratchet and Clank from Insomniac. But then they also had Sly Cooper from Sucker Punch. So they had a few studios all working on similar-ish 3D platformers at the time, and Sucker Punch just fell into that same category. So they made a bunch of Sly Cooper games. I've never played any of those personally. But then when PS3 rolled around, like a lot of other PlayStation, subsidiaries, but also just people that made games exclusively for PlayStation, they moved to larger story-based open world stuff, like a lot of studios did on that generation with the PS3 and the 360. And so they ditched Sly Cooper. They did put out a collection of Sly Cooper games on PS3, but they didn't do anything else with Sly Cooper. Maybe they put out a PSP game or something, but there wasn't much. And then they made Infamous on PS3, which Infamous is a open world game. It's a pretty small open world game, probably because of the limitations of the PS3. But personally, I actually really like the feel of the small open world because you'll have a mission somewhere, and there's actually, um, I guess I should say this: you are a super powered individual, because you can actually go down the route of being a superhero or a supervillain. You can do either. You can make your choice. Um, but you have superpowers. You're like electric. You have electric abilities, and it all came from one incident at the start of the game. You got powers, and now you've got to correct some of the effects of this incident now with powers. So, and it's very story based. There's a few other characters involved. You've got a best friend. You've got a girlfriend, there's a few other people in there, the main bad guys and stuff. And you're in Empire City, is the name of the city. It's obviously based off New York, quite heavily. But you start out in this pretty large district of this city, which, to be fair, I say it's pretty large. It feels pretty large, but in actuality, you can get across it like very fast because the world is so small. But you can get across this area. It's called the Neon, and it's like a district in the city. So there's the Neon District, right? Um, and once you get to a certain point of the game, like pretty far in, you unlock the next district, which is called the Warren. And you go to the Warren, and that's where they have they have like the prison, and they have it's pretty crime-ridden district. Which I mean, considering the state of the world in the game, the whole thing's actually quite crime-ridden. But the Warren's even worse. And then really like right towards the end of the game, like in the last few hours, you unlock a third area, which is considerably smaller. I want to say it's tiny, but it is smaller definitely than the other two districts. That's the historical district. So the idea is like the city started on that district, and then they moved and made these other two districts at some point. Um, and the progression like that through the different areas largely stems on the fact that the bridges between the areas are destroyed, or there's no power in certain sections, so they can't be lowered. It's like a drawbridge, so there's stuff like that, and that's how you do it. And the large portions of the city are missing power, and so there are moments where you have to go underground into these substations. Man, I could not talk this morning. You go underground into these substations, and you have to go turn the power back on, because you with your electric abilities are able to like blast at things and activate them. I mean, that's a large part of the game. There will be these like terminals that, there's no power, there's a generator, there's no power. You have to blast it a few times with electric energy and then you can like charge it, I mean, it's pretty simple stuff if we're being honest. But yes, I definitely enjoyed some of the abilities you unlock later in the game. And Infamous, you use unlock abilities as you go through the game and you get to be pretty overpowered by the end, which definitely feels nice. I mean, the enemies are also overpowered, so it's not like you're like destroying everybody in your path. Although I think the game does get a little bit easier at the end. But I thought it was fun. At the end as well, it was quite fun. So Infamous is a very solid game on PS3. This game came out in 2009, maybe I think. I want to say it was 2009. Um, yes, 2009. I was correct. So actually, it's almost the anniversary. It came out on May 26th. So the game is almost 16 years old. That's cool. But anyways, I guess what I was getting at is that Infamous, it has. Well, I guess I should preface with this. A lot of games on PS3 and on 360, I don't think this is any secret to anybody. A lot of games on those consoles have a lot of technical issues. All the time it happens that these games on SPS3 and 360, a lot of these big open world things especially, you have like all sorts of glitches where you like fall through the floor or they crash or they freeze during the credits or I mean just like sometimes minor stuff, sometimes pretty serious stuff, I would argue. Um, and Infamous, I will say, is quite good. Is quite good at not having quite those same issues. There definitely are some issues here and there. Um, Glitched through a couple walls a little bit, but I usually glitch back out. It wasn't like I just fully passed through a wall. It was like my character clipped into a wall and then came out. Like it wasn't a big deal or anything. There was one time where I completed a mission and it didn't tell me I completed the mission, and I thought I was going to have to reload, but I just walked away from the mission and I came back, and then it had completed, so it worked out fine. So there were a few minor issues, but there wasn't anything too egregious, I would say, as far as glitches and issues and stuff. And you do tend to expect that kind of stuff on PS3 and 360. I mean, I know I tried to play Uncharted, the first Uncharted game, and the whole reason I stopped playing that game was because I was encountering so many weird glitches or weird, I don't know, just things that just didn't work very well. There were a lot of mechanical issues too. It just felt like antiquated in a million different ways, which you wouldn't think I would care, being somebody that still likes very old Nintendo games. I mean, I still go back and I still play like NES games every now and then. Um, Although I can't say NES games don't feel antiquated. But some of them are still good, even though they do. But I mean, Mario 64 is my favorite game. And I'm not gonna say it's not a little antiquated in some areas. I think in other areas it feels quite modern, but in some areas it's definitely a little antiquated. Definitely like the camera, and obviously the visuals, right? The visuals are a little antiquated, but overall I think the game's so good. But Uncharted, that was really why I stopped, is because it felt antiquated in all the wrong ways. And I guess maybe what it was is I was also going into it expecting it to feel quite modern because I was playing, at the end of the day, a quite modern game. I mean, I play Wii games and they feel fairly modern, right? But then I play a PS3 game and they feel ancient because at the time, they were being so much more ambitious with like visual fidelity and stuff that nowadays they look worse, they run worse. I mean, they've always looked this bad or ran this bad. It's just that at the time we were used to it and we didn't really understand how it was going to get better. Um, but yes, I mean like the visuals and the visuals I don't really care too much. If anything, I actually kind of don't mind. I mean, a lot of people complain about they go back to PS3. They're like, man, these visuals, everything's too dark, everything's too gloomy. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. It is too dark, it is too gloomy, but it doesn't really bother me too much. Like I just personally don't, seem to care too much about the quality of the visuals in games. Now, I'm not gonna say if there's a really good looking game, I might look at it and be like, wow, that looks good. Like that's pretty cool. But if a game looks really bad, I'll probably notice it, but then I won't even care while I'm playing. I think generally while I'm playing a game, I don't notice if it looks good or looks bad. I guess unless it's like an art style, right? Like an art style, I notice the whole time. So if the art style is really ugly, might hinder my experience a little bit. But if the art style is really good, it might help. But with like just straight up visual fidelity, like realistic graphics, it doesn't really. I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me whatsoever. So, anywho's, and obviously, Infamous is going for realistic graphics. But yeah, I don't. I mean, the visuals. If you're someone who cares about visuals, then I don't even know why you're bothering playing a PS3 game. But personally, I don't care about visuals, so it doesn't really bother me. But I guess I could talk a little bit more. In Infamous, you have, I want to say there were about 40-ish main missions, of varying length. Some of them took me like an hour. A couple of them I think took me almost an hour, but others of them I finished in 10 minutes. Like I mean, like some of the ones, especially at the beginning, obviously. I mean, it makes sense as you go through the game. They start to take more and more time. Generally speaking, I mean, there's maybe a few exceptions here and there, but generally that's what you expect. And so there's the main missions, then there's side missions. So I mentioned those three areas either. There's the Neon, the Warren, and the Historical District. And each of those districts, they're broken up into several different sections. I want to say, I mean, overall there were probably 50 sections maybe in the game. I don't know exactly how many, but there's quite a few. Um, and so when you turn on power in an area, which you only have to do in certain areas, when you turn on power in an area, it'll fill in a whole like larger region of a of one of the three districts. So the three districts, think of it this way: the three districts are broken into three or four pieces, and then each of those pieces are broken into even smaller pieces. And those smaller pieces, each little piece, which is like a couple blocks maybe in the city, if that even, um, has like its own side quest. And so there's side quests in every district of the city, and the whole idea, well, not the whole idea, but part of the idea is like you go around and you do side quests, and you're supposed to do one in each area of the city, and then the enemies will stop spawning in that area, supposedly, because they would say that I would finish a side quest in that area, and they'd be like, enemies no longer spawn here, but then enemies still would. Like I don't know, like it definitely seemed like there were less enemies, but every now and then enemies still seemed to spawn there. So I don't know exactly why that was. I have no idea, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, it did get a little bit less chaotic when those spots were filled in. And so my idea was, I did as many side quests as I could before I did a main quest. And then as soon as I did the main quest, I would go try to do more side quests because some of the side quests get a little locked behind certain things. Because, like some of them, like there might be some big event in the game where the enemies come up with some new tactic, right? They I'll give it away. One of them, there was a bus with a bunch of guns on it, and they were going through the streets shooting people, right? So this was one of the main quests, and you have to jump on the bus and destroy the bus. And this is, there's a few of these in a main quest. Well, once you do that, a few of the side quests that you couldn't do before now open up because they were using that same mechanic with the bus stuff, right? So that kind of stuff, those things get recycled a little bit, which doesn't, feel bad or anything. It doesn't bother me. If I think it's great. I wouldn't even say there were any major mechanics that I didn't enjoy, so I don't think it was really a big deal. I guess I could talk about story spoilers a little bit because it's a pretty big story. Although I will say this game is quite old, so I don't know if it's really a huge deal for anybody. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I did do spoilers for like the Metroid games, just a couple of those, so I think this is appropriate. So I'm gonna leave it here. And I'm gonna do some spoilers, and if you don't want spoiled on Infamous, you can come back, and I'll have a timestamp in the description of this episode that you can jump to. All right, five, four, three, two, one. All right, so in Infamous, you have you're this guy, and I told you you got the electric powers. It was basically this big, like explosion in the city that was created by this weapon, called the Ray Sphere. That's what they call it, which isn't a sphere at all. I don't know why it's called the Ray Sphere. I don't know. Who cares? But anyways, there's this weapon that's been created by this group of enemies called the First Sons. You're going against them. You're facing them. They're not the only enemies in the game. In the Neon District, you encounter the Reapers. They dress up, like Reaper masks and stuff. And they're like a evil clan, I guess, like I don't know, some sort of like gang violence, right? But then there's in the Warren, there's the Dustmen, that's what they're called. And they look like they're all wearing trash bags on their heads. I don't know why that's a thing, but it is a thing. And then when you get to the historical district, you're actually facing the First Sons, like, themselves. Like, there's no other, you're just facing the First Sons. And they have their own little minions and stuff as well. And then there's, of course, the big bad guys, right? And one thing I liked is throughout the game, the enemies get harder, which I mean makes sense, right? But like you start the game and you're fighting like, these Reaper guys, and there's like a few of them just with guns, right? But then as you progress through the game, they introduce like these conduits that can like teleport around, and they can shoot like these. They use on the ground. They like shoot I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a large thing that you have to dodge out of the way of. I don't even know how you explain it, but they build it, they form it on the ground, and then they shoot it at you, and you've got to get out of the way before it gets shot at you. And you can, but they teleport around you, and they also have quite a bit of health, so they can be a bit of a threat there, especially at the beginning. Now later on, they're not a problem at all, obviously, but early on they can be quite a problem. But then when you finally get to like the Warren, right, the second district, there's these dustmen are like so much more challenging. I mean, I got to the Warren and I went to go fight a few of them and I was dying. It was like, oh my God, this is terrible. So it was quite the ramp up in difficulty, but very quickly, once you're in the Warren for a while, you do a couple quests. It becomes much easier because you gain so much XP. You can put that into leveling up abilities and stuff, and you get to be, their power gets to be more similar to that of the bad guys you're facing. Um, and as you go through the Warren, you encounter some more enemies and stuff. I know there were a few. There's these guys that summon in these yellow, like gold colored spider things. Basically, they crawl on the ground and stuff. And so they can, they'll summon a bunch of them, and then they come running at you. And these spider guys, they die in like one or two hits, but they're very agile. They can get around you very quickly. They'll all rush at you, and if you shoot one, they all run away in different directions, and then they'll all come back, at the same time. And if you shoot one, again, they all go away. But if you don't manage to get one because they're moving around so fast, then they're gonna beat you up. Like they do quite a bit of damage considering they're such little guys. Um, Now, of course, if you're on high ground or something, you're good. They can't climb walls or anything, even though they're a spider. But if you're there on the ground facing a guy, these guys will come and get you. Now, thankfully it's not like you face only those guys. You still face the regular guys too. So it's not a huge deal. And the good news is as well, you can just shoot the guy who summoned the things, and if you kill him, they all are like inoperational. The problem is that he usually summons the things and then he runs off and hides somewhere. Like he literally hides, like you can't find him. Like he's like hidden behind a building or a wall or behind a dumpster or something. So you're here facing all these guys, and of course he'll just keep summoning more if you don't track him down. So that was an interesting enemy. And then this is pretty late in the game, but you're still in the Warren because, like I mentioned earlier, you'd only get to the historical district like right towards the end of the game. There are these large like I don't know, mech suit guys, like they're guys in mech suits, sort of, and they have like the metal arms and the metal legs, and that the kind of stuff you would expect from people in mech suits. Yeah, and so and you have to. I personally, one of the abilities you unlock fairly early in the game are these bombs. So you have the regular electric blast, but then you have these bombs you can throw, and the bombs can actually damage you too if you stand too close. But yeah, you've got to throw these bombs, and they can stick to enemies and stuff as well. And of course, they're used to just hit multiple enemies, and I think they also do a little bit more damage. But the whole premise of the abilities in the game hinges on this like bar basically. You've got these little circles up at the top, and you start with I don't know maybe 10 of them, and then when those deplete, you're out of energy, and you have to go drain energy from an object in the world. So you might be fighting, you might use up all of your energy, and now you've got to go to a lamppost or a street light or something, and you've got to drain it and get some electrical charge back. Now, of course, depending on what you try to drain, you might get more or less energy. So there are these electrical boxes that you can get fully charged from, but there are also like I don't know, TV screens that you can only get a little bit from, like, because they obviously hold quite a bit less. Or like there's cars, right? You can get a little bit from cars, charge it with the car battery, you only get a little bit. Um, but like a street light gives you quite a bit, but not quite as much as one of those electrical boxes, you know? So there's definitely a bit of a, I want to say strategy, but there's definitely a bit of a nuance there as to like which device do you want to go for in your time of needing energy. So that's maybe a little interesting at times. But in the combat, like I said, there are also these big like mech guys, and the mech guys they took like lots of hits. You actually, when you first encounter them, I think this is really cleverly done as well. When you first encounter them, they're actually a boss. Like they're like you fight him as a boss. Like there's a big, larger health bar and stuff. I think the one you fight might be a little bit more difficult than the ones you find later, because they don't frame those ones as a boss. But it seems like they die in less hits the one you have later. But maybe it's just because I was leveled up more. I don't know. There are there's leveling systems where you gain XP and then you get to go put that XP into different abilities, like almost like a pseudo RPG mechanic. But there's not like inherently levels. Like it's not like you're level 13, but you do get XP every time you kill an enemy, every time you heal a civilian, every time you complete a quest, a side quest, any of that stuff, you get XP. There's also a big mechanic in the game called karma moments, and there's the karma you have as well. And this is how the choosing your side between a superhero and a supervillain. This is how this works because there will be moments in the game. I'll use like one of the earliest ones as an example, right? So of course, the city you're in is in a big time of like apocalypse after this huge explosion, and the government is like lying that they're in some like pandemic or something, and that's why they've blocked off the city. But really, they're just worried because you have gotten superpowers and other people have a lot of power in the city, and there's a lot of gang wars and stuff. So they're just blocking it off to basically contain everybody. But they're making out like there's some like quarantine in place and stuff. Is the way I understood it. But yeah, so basically one of the earliest story quests in the game, you have to go and get like there's a supply drop from the government, and there's all this food in these crates, and so you've got to go, and this is still part of, I would say it's not like an official tutorial, but it is sort of tutorializing you. There's some things that they're teaching you while you're doing this. So like you have to climb a tall building, and that's a pretty big mechanic in this game. There's the climbing and stuff, and so you have to go get all this food down. And so you get to the top of the building and you have to knock the food crates down to the bottom. And then when you get to the bottom, the game stops and it comes up with this gray screen, and it'll say, and your main character will narrate. He'll be like, okay, I can take all this food to myself because there's you and you have a friend as well. You can take all this food to yourself, and that, or you can let people have it. You can let the other civilians have it, and based on what you choose. And these moments will happen all the time in main quests, in side quests, that kind of stuff. Um, Based on what you choose, you will become more evil or more heroic. And there's like three different tiers to each. And as you unlock new tiers of each, you can unlock new abilities. So there's like one or two abilities that you can only get if you go down the evil route. But there's also a few abilities you can only get if you go down the superhero route. And there's a few abilities that you can only level up if you go down the evil route. And there's, so they definitely, I think they try to push you in the direction of the good route, I would say. But the evil route is there, and it actually kind of makes me want to replay this game at some point and go down the evil route just to kind of see the differences. There's no actual like huge differences in how the story works out. Like it works out about the same. But I know there's like some dialogue differences. Some cutscenes are different depending on what you choose. So I'm interested at some point to replay this game for that reason. Although it does seem like it will be harder to be evil because the things that are evil give you less XP than the things that are good. So the evil, it almost seems like it's a hard mode. You could go down the evil route. It's almost a hard mode. Although I mean, I'm sure those abilities probably do more damage to balance it out. So I don't know. Maybe it's not a huge deal. But yes, I think those are a lot of the mechanics in the game. Some of the the big like crime bosses. There's Alden. There's the main guy Kessler, and actually it's a big reveal at the end of the game. That this Kessler, he's like the big guy you've been facing for a long time. You see him very early in the game. He's like leading the Reapers, um, but then you don't really hear about him too much for a little while. But at the end of the game, you actually fight him as the final boss. And there's also, like I said, there's Alden as well, who's like very much not with Kessler. They're very much against each other. But he leads the Dustmen, and you deal with him a little bit earlier in the game. So right towards the end of the game, you have to go deal with Alden, and then you have to go deal with Kessler. Because Alden has this ray sphere, and that's like a lot of the end of the game is you're hunting for the ray sphere with this other guy. You have to find the ray sphere, you have to destroy the ray sphere so nobody else can get the power from it. Um, and then you go and well you at first you fail to find it, or you find it but then Kessler steals it and runs away. So then you go deal with Alden, you defeat him, and then you go find Kessler again and destroy the race sphere. And then eventually you fight him another time, and then that's when you actually beat the game, is when you I think you actually, yeah, you kill him. So anyways, and so that's a big reveal. After you kill him, you find out that it was actually you all along. It's the same, character that you play as. That's the main villain. That he like went back in time to try to change things about his life, and that's how you ended up facing him. So just an interesting little reveal there at the end. But I think that's gonna be enough as far as spoilers for Infamous. So I am gonna call it there. I'm running a little bit short on time. I'm doing this on Wednesday morning because I had no other time. I'm finishing this up, I should say. I've been working on this for a few days here, so I've just been short on time lately. But the good news is the school is ending fairly soon, so then it'll be a little bit easier to get this stuff out and hopefully to get other videos out as well. But that's all in due time. So I will see you all next week. Definitely email the show. You can email the show and ask any questions, any comments, anything you want, I guess, at notjustnintendo@gmail.com. That is NOTJUSTNINTENDO@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces, none of that. You can also, instead of emailing, you can also comment on YouTube if that's where you are, or you can comment on Spotify if you're there, and I will see those as well. You can subscribe to the channel. If you're on Spotify or on YouTube, you can go subscribe. And of course, you can join the community Discord and hang out. There's a few people in there. We don't talk as much as I'd like, but every now and then. But you can go join the conversation, and I'm sure if we had more people, there'd be more to talk about. You can talk about that kind of stuff. And we talk about a lot of Nintendo stuff, but other video games as well, I mean, I guess that's kind of the theme of the podcast as well. And I guess with that, I will see you all next week. There's 29 days until the Switch 2 releases, and so next week it'll be 22. So that's pretty exciting. And I guess that's it. I will see you all next time, and goodbye.